What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into a live edition of the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. On today's episode, we're going to react to Mel Kiper's mock draft, see who he has the Browns taking second overall, which we could just stop right there and think to ourselves, thank goodness the Browns are back in round one. I mean, just put the football things aside for a moment here. It's nice to be in round one, to be a part of Kiper and Dane Brugler and Jeremiah, to be part of these mock drafts is incredible. So, a little bit of a preview here, but do you want the Browns to select Travis Hunter? Let me know in the comments section. I'll be giving shout outs. Give me a yes or give me a no. I've talked about some of these prospects before. When you're picking second overall versus 20th overall, you don't have to cover as much ground, because you get your pick of the litter. So let me know, yes or no. I got Jurassic Recaps in the chat. Harrison Graham, who I just saw filming a video, is somehow in the chat, as is Chase Sr., which is very strange. Dylan Sutcliffe says no. Tyman says no. Kirk said, I'm a little surprised how many no's are there. I thought there'd be a little bit of, dissent or splitness on this subject, but it's 80-20 no right now. If Carter isn't available, yes. So, we're going to talk about Kiper's mock draft and get to know some of the top prospects. I do have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Prize Picks is also a sponsor of today's live show. It's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. We got nearly 100 people watching right now, so shout out your city for me. We also have one of the newest members of the Chat Sports team working with us today. It is producer Dylan, so we might have a little bit of turbulence in our flight today, like me floating for a second, but don't be too harsh on him in the chat. Dylan's doing a fantastic job so far. So everyone show Dylan some support as he learns just the ropes of being a producer at Chat Sports. So where is everyone tuning in from? Kathy's in Sacramento. Kirk is in Dayton. I've got Dylan in Mayfield Heights. We've got Berlin, Germany in the house. I've always wanted to go to Berlin. Have yet to make it out there. Jacob, I want Ward unless we sign a QB in free agency. Jacob, whether they get Ward or Sanders, they are signing a quarterback in free agency. You want, I don't want to say a hot take, but an opinion that needs to be voiced more. I don't believe Ward or Sanders, wherever they end up, and this is not me being a hater, are ready to start week 1. I mean, that's not uncommon. There are plenty of examples of top quarterbacks not being ready to start for the first game of the season. I think they need to sit for a little bit and learn. So whether they want a quarterback in round 1 or not, they are adding one in free agency. I am absolute about that. Gabriel's watching from Brazil. Wow, that's awesome. Time Man the Buckeye is reminding everyone of the national championship. Steve is in Harrisburg, PA. Harrisburg is such a low-key state capital trivia. That's a good one to get people tripped up on. Manila, Philippines is in the house here. Speaking of trivia, I used the Philippines for a trivia question last night. It was not a very good one to remember for Filipinos, though. It was about Ferdinand Marcos, so sorry about that. Macedonia, Ohio, and we got Tampa, Florida. Who you got for the AFC and NFC championship games? Do you have the Bills or do you have the Chiefs? Dylan's going to hit spacebar right now, and it's going to put it on screen. There you go, Dylan. Look at you. I really want to take the Bills. I think we are all rooting for the Bills. We cannot see a three-peat. It's just going to be so disheartening to all 31 other teams that have, legit Super Bowl aspirations if the Chiefs just continue to win over and over and over again. So I want to believe the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills. I think I counted. I have picked against the Chiefs like 6 or 7 straight playoff games. They have won every single one. Starting for sure in the Super Bowl, I picked the Eagles. That didn't go well. And then I picked against the Chiefs every playoff game last year. Dolphins, that was more wishful thinking, but I did take the Dolphins, and that hurt my wallet. And then I took the Bills, I took the Ravens, and I took the Niners. And then I didn't really take the Texans, but I was just kind of hoping the Texans could win. Oh, my goodness. It's someone who sits 30 feet away from me, Mitchell Renz, sending in a $2 super chat. So, let me know who you got, Bills or Chiefs. I've got Kirkpatrick taking Buffalo, Jurassic Ropes taking the Bills, Kirk Davis taking Kansas City. The Chiefs just don't strike me as like this unbeatable team. Despite what their record says and everything, it's just watching them play, they don't look like a team that can't be overtaken. You know what I mean? Like the Dodgers, they look like a baseball team that no one's going to beat this year. I know it's Reed and I know it's Mahomes and it's the postseason and everything, but it feels like it can be slayed. That dragon can be taken down. So I'm not giving up hope, but I don't know. Time Warrior, who cares? I stopped watching when the Browns fell apart. Time Warrior has not watched football in a long time. When do you think would be an official fair week to say the Browns fell apart? Like, you could honestly say, or you could say week 1 for the way they played in terms of the penalties and all that stuff. It was tough to see right there. Okay. Mitch, we're going to get to your super chat in a moment, but let me know for the NFC Championship game who you got. The Commanders or the Eagles? I've got the Eagles. It's been a great run for Washington. And maybe this is kind of like the Joe Burrow Bengals run where every time they won, you just thought, okay, but that's going to be the end of it. And then they went to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. But I don't think that's in the cards for the Commanders this year to go all the way. So I'll take the Eagles. I'll take the chalk pick here. I took the Lions, though. So what do I know? A lot of people going for Washington. That's a little bit of a surprise. David says when we lost the Giants, yeah, that's... For me, it was probably the Raiders. They were up 10-0. And then the Raiders put up 20 unanswered, right? It was 10-0, then it was 10-10. And then before you knew, it was 20-10. And then Watson threw a great touchdown pass and a BS holding call wiped it away. And it's just been downhill since. But Giants is definitely a fair line in the sand for, oh, snap, we have a real issue here. Mitchell Renz, how do you, I got to assume this is AFX. I know. I'm saying, but AFX is the one making these accounts. So there's only one person behind making Mitch, Harrison, Chase, myself. So, yeah, so there's one. I assume it's AFX, I'm saying. Give me Buffalo. I was like, Buffalo? Mitch looking good as a baseball player. Okay, we have a mailbag coming up later on in today's show. So get your questions in right now. Use hashtag Browns as Dylan hits spacebar or super chat like Mitch just did, and we'll throw it on screen for everyone watching to see. So hashtag Browns if you are unable to super chat, whatever reason. And and you want to have a question thrown on screen, producer Dylan and producer Reed are going to pick their favorite questions. No guarantee they pick yours, but I do guarantee if you super chat, it will get on screen for everyone watching. Cheese and crackers. How did you get Seeps too? He's live right now. I can hear him through this wall. Wow. This is like a never-ending Scooby-Doo meme of like Fred pulling the mask off and it's the same person. It's just one Chat Sports host after another. Seeps, we will get your super chat on screen. Over 100 people hanging out with us. Salute to you guys for making us a part of your Wednesday. Greatly appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. We're at 25 likes. Trying to get to 30 before we start our first segment. We got Seeps' super chat coming up. There it is. Hello, Petey. Hello, Patrick. Oh, gee, my gosh. Here's Trace. I'm curious how deep your Rolodex is for Chat Sports hosts and like producers. There's 31 people at Chat Sports right now. It used to be so easy to count, but we've doubled in size since I started. Just Chill, getting a question in. Excellent Gamer, getting a question in. Love it. Ramsey, take a chance on Trask as QB until Browns find their guy. Ramsey, toss hashtag Browns on that bad boy, and we'll throw your take on screen for everyone watching to see. Christopher Ryan, trade down and acquire more picks and then draft a left tackle in round 1. Common sense. Calvin Banks and Will Campbell, for being the top tackles in this draft class, they're not moving the needle a lot right now. Trace, I get what you mean. I don't know what this is in reference to, but Trace, I just passed you in the hall walking into the studio. So really appreciate you super chatting. You're also live, I think, in like 30 minutes on Saints Now. Okay, we got Jacob asking a question. Use hashtag Browns. Okay, let's get into our first segment, though. So we're going to talk about some of the news and rumors out there. We're going to look at Mel Kiper's mock draft, which we all woke up to this morning. And then we're going to go to our mailbag. So hashtag Browns or Super Chat to be on that mailbag. I'm wondering if anyone that's not one of my coworkers is going to Super Chat. So far, I'm at Mitch, Seeps, and Trace. And Chugs. Okay. Jeremy Chugs with a $2 Super Chat. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Seeps. Thank you, Trace. And thank you, Mitch. It's really remarkable to see the support coming in for my coworkers. Gabriel getting a thought in there. Love to see it. Kirk getting a question in. Terrific. Okay. Once we check out Jeremy's Super Chat, we'll jump into our first segment here. So, Mr. Chugs coming up in just a moment. Jurassic recaps. Drew Dahlman. I don't know about that one. He's going to be very expensive. And Cleveland does not have the luxury of signing a very expensive center when they already have a center who they're paying. Okay, I'm done now. That was fun. It was a good ride. There's no doubt about it. Let's get the show on the road, though. Thank you to everyone who's been hanging out with us as we let the audience build up at the beginning of the show. AFX. James Harper. James, the $20 Super Chat. You guys are putting Dylan in an absolute blender right now. Every time he gets ready for the next thing, Super Chats are coming in. Okay. AFX and James will peek at your supers, and then I promise we're going to get into our first segment. It's kind of fun watching the entire Southeast squirm about the rain, or the snow and the cold. We got James Harper with a $20 super. AFX. If we did everyone, I have... Oh, so it is AFX. I don't think if we did everyone, we would be here for a while. I don't think you meant to include the word I, taking ownership of doing this for everyone, but you've done it, AFX. And then James Harper, what's up, everyone? What's going on, James? Awesome to see you in the chat. Usual suspects coming into play. Let's get this party started. Let's get into the latest on your favorite team. It's one of my favorite things about the NFL is that they don't have an off season. Things die down in July when like training camp and mini camp and OTAs conclude. There's no more free agents. There's no draft. But, man, 11 months of the year, it is go, 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 go. From training camp, from August to April, it is, just full speed ahead. Takes the foot off the gas a little bit in May, June, July. So, it's awesome to see. All right. We got our first segment on tap for everyone. 119 people tuned in. Thank you guys for watching. We do have a new producer on the ones and twos today. It is Mr. Dylan. So if we hit a little bit of a snag here or there, just kind of bear with us here as we train some of the newbies to get up to speed on running full speed at Chat Sports as we put out as much content as we can for you guys at home. Excellent gamer. Marshall is in the chat. Wow. You just keep going, dude. I am impressed. I'm not going to lie. Now, are we ready to roll? Let's get into a live Cleveland Browns report. Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. On today's episode, I want to react to what might not appear to be major Browns news, but I do want you guys to kind of get it in your head that with the Browns having the second overall pick, even if another team is making some kind of move and it may not feel like it has any implications for the Browns, it does. Because I saw this tweet from Adam Schefter talking about the new GM for Tennessee saying, quote, "We won't pass on a generational talent with the first pick in the NFL draft." And my first thought was, Brian Windhorst, what does that mean? Generational talent. I don't think he's talking about Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Those are not generational QB talents, right? I'm not even trying to knock those guys. If you like them, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. I'm not a crystal ball guy. Like, you don't have one. I don't have one. We don't know what they're going to be like in the NFL. But we can all agree that Ward and Sanders are not the same type of prospects going into the draft that Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow, Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Newton, like there's no homework to be done. The pick was made for you the moment you secured the first overall pick. So when I see this comment about we want generational talent, I start to wonder, does this signal the Titans aren't going quarterback like most people believe? And maybe they could be going with, if you look at Kiper's big board, Travis Hunter, who he has as the number one prospect in this draft class. And if the Titans do go Hunter, then that definitely changes things up. Because I'm looking at this big board here, I'm not seeing a slam dunk candidate for generational talent. Like, Abdul Carter's a good pass rusher. Myles Garrett was generational, and we have seen that so far, right? Graham, Sanders, Ward, Will Johnson, like there's plenty to like here. Don't get me wrong, but generational is not a word to use lightly. And so if you're tossing that out there, then there's got to be someone who is head and shoulders above everyone else in this class. And Travis Hunter is probably the best prospect right now. Everyone's got him at number one. He plays both ways. He's extremely versatile. He's extremely exciting. So if the Titans really are sticking by their word here, then the pick for Tennessee is Travis Hunter, which means now Cleveland has their pick of both quarterbacks at number 2 if they want to go down that path. So that's why I opened up with, when you see news around the NFL, try to take a moment and look at it through the lens of the Cleveland Browns. How does that impact Cleveland? Because when you're picking second, there's going to be a lot of news storylines out there that will have ramifications on Cleveland. When you're picking 30th, it's get in the back of the bus and wait. You know what I mean? Like, you're the last in line here. That's not the case right now for Cleveland. Now, before we get any further in today's episode, make sure to subscribe. We've got 65 subs to go until our next baby milestone. We're going to talk all about the NFL draft and free agency. So if you are looking for a free Cleveland Browns YouTube channel, scroll on down and click that subscribe button. So with that in mind, let's kind of move on here and remind everyone that it is smoke and mirror season. When we see stuff like this from the Tennessee Titans, we should not look at it as the Bible, like as fact, as a word from God. We should look at it from a couple of different angles. Is he telling the truth? Do they really mean they want generational talent? And if that's the case, then there's only one obvious candidate, Travis Hunter. Or is he trying to throw people off the scent a little bit? Maybe the Titans are interested in trading the first overall pick, so they really want to drive up the value of that first overall pick. We've kind of seen this before. Like, I don't know, 10 months ago, when the Bears beat reporter for ESPN, Courtney Cronin, tweeted out, talking about Ryan Poles and the Bears having the first overall pick, saying, quote, on which QB they'll draft, I don't right now. Hopefully it just hits me. And then once the draft was over, Ryan Poles was very public of, yeah, we knew right from the start Caleb Williams was our guy. But on March 25th, a month before the draft, he was pretending like they didn't know who they were going to select. This is what GMs do. They try not to show their hand. If they show their hand, they don't have a lot of leverage if they want to pivot. If teams know what they want to do at that spot, it makes it very difficult for that team to negotiate and try and get the best return possible if they want to maintain that option to move on from the pick. If Ryan Poles comes out and says, like, yeah, we're taking Caleb Williams, well, not that they were going to trade the pick anyway, but they don't have a lot of leverage. Now, in this case, they weren't going to move on that pick anyway, but it just goes to show GMs may say one thing because they want 31 other GMs to hear that. But that's not always the truth. This is a game of chess. We're going to talk more about this and more stuff as well, but make sure you check out our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. You see, Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, if the Browns really do have the opportunity to select Cam Ward because the Titans are sticking to their word, which is generational talent, and that can only really mean one player, Travis Hunter, well, now the draft, I wouldn't say starts with Cleveland, but things make an interesting, U-turn. And Cam Ward could be the pick for the Browns because I think by most people's account, he is the top quarterback in this draft class. You can look at the numbers, and they speak for themselves. I mean, the guy threw nearly 40 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Now, it's also important to say that college stats should not be viewed as something that can translate to the pros. I don't think people need to hear that, but, Bailey Zappi threw 50 touchdowns in college. So just pump the brakes a little bit when you see a big touchdown or low interception number. That's not going to tell you the whole story. But just an overall prospect on Ward and some background information on him. From a size standpoint, he's excellent. 6'2", 223 pounds. He is everything you have and everything you want for a prototypical quarterback. Elite arm talent. He can make tons of difficult throws. He's got a rocket of an arm. He's got an ability to make difficult off-platform throws, moving to his left, moving to his right, throwing across his body. I've seen it all from Cam Ward. He's got the arm talent to make a lot of tough throws. Now, he's a gunslinger, which is kind of a good and bad thing. It's fun, like how Jameis is fun, but it comes at a price. 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. You're not going to have a starting job for long if you're throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. And that's the part of the game that has to change for Ward. The 7 interceptions this past season don't really reflect that for him, but the actual tape itself shows Ward made a lot of what my old high school lacrosse coach would say, hero ball plays, where you try and do it all yourself. You put the cape on, and in college, maybe you can run around and avoid defenders a lot easier when you're playing Virginia Tech. That's not going to work against the Steelers and the Ravens. So that's a part of the game that has to be corrected by Ward, because if he tries to play his version of football in the NFL, it's either going to be one big flop or he'll be the next Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not going to put my money on him being the next Patrick Mahomes. So the arm talent is there, but at the same time, does Cam Ward look like a Stefanski quarterback? We've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking about how Deshaun Watson is not a Stefanski quarterback, right? They want to get back to someone who can get under center, run play action. That's not Ward. No, Ward is a shotgun spread gunslinger. So I'm having a difficult time convincing myself of, for everyone that's been advocating for the Browns to get a quarterback, were you also advocating for the Browns to get back towards the offense that Stefanski had a lot of success with before Watson? Because if so, these two are colliding. They are not things that mesh well. Now, here's the ultimate wild card in all this. And it doesn't matter what I say or you think or what the Browns think, for that matter. If Jimmy Haslam just knocks down the door of that war room and says, I want butts and seats. I want people back in Huntington Bank Field or wherever the next stadium is going to be. A great way to buy yourself some time is to draft a quarterback second overall. You're going to get a fan base that kind of gets some new hope again and gets re-energized. You're going to sell some tickets. You're going to sell some jerseys. And for some owners, that's not a bad strategy. It may not line up and be parallel with what the GM wants to do for what's best for the team. But if they're looking for a Band-Aid to give themselves out of this hatred that a lot of fans have for the Deshaun Watson trade and contract, drafting a good new quarterback is a great way to give everyone a little bit of amnesia and forget all about Deshaun Watson until that new shiny toy doesn't work. And then you're left looking for your next quarterback a year or two later. And you didn't use the second overall draft pick well, and you could have taken Pro Bowl guys like Abdul Carter, maybe Travis Hunter or Will Johnson, like someone like that you felt a lot more confident in as a prospect, but they didn't play the position that's going to put people in seats. So we'll see if Haslam wants to interject. Ultimately, who do you think the Browns are going to draft? Is it going to be Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or maybe Abdul Carter? Like, just make your prediction right now. I'm very curious if we can get anyone to nail it spot on. We still have a long ways to go. I'll say this. While we spend a lot of our time talking about the draft, not that I'm in Berea or I'm in a part of these conversations, but generally speaking, most times when the season ends, the team spends the first couple of weeks mostly looking internal, right? Looking at their own guys, looking at their own coaches, and once they get through all their internal review, well, then they start to look at free agency because that's first up on the docket. And they're going to have their scouts taking care of the draft, and then their scouts will debrief them on what they see and their thoughts and whatnot. But first things first, I don't think the Browns are all the way at the spot of we've made a determination as to what we're going to do with the second overall pick. They're probably still figuring out what they want to do with their roster and their upcoming free agents, who they want to bring back, and when they know who they don't want to bring back, who they're going to replace in free agency, and then they'll start to get more towards the draft in April. Before we sign off, we're going to pick a card. We've got the newest member of the Chat Sports team here, Dylan, on the ones and twos. Dylan, are you ready to pick a card with us today? There you go. Dylan just learned the unmute button. There we go, Dylan. Which card do you want to go with?
Well, yesterday I went with the King of Hearts, so today I'm going to go with the Five of Diamonds.
Five of Diamonds? You got it. I'm going to go with the Eight of Spades. We're both losers, Dylan. It's two of spades. Two of spades. Damn. All right. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you all later. All right. Dylan wants to go Abdul Carter. Jurassic wants to go Abdul Carter. I like Abdul Carter. The guy had 12 sacks his first year at that position. I do think taking a raw prospect, second overall, could be something we look back at and go, that might not have been the best idea. Like a raw prospect is someone that maybe you take a little bit later on because there's no more guarantee, so why not take someone with a high ceiling? There are guys who I think are guarantees to be perennial Pro Bowlers. Will Johnson, Mason Graham. But Carter plays that, desirable position of pass rusher. And that's ultimately going to rank higher than corner and interior defensive tackle. Kathy's in the chat saying Carter. Just Chill going Carter, Graham, Johnson. As someone who's Tim Green's here, it's great to see you, Tim. As someone who's not a diehard Ohio State fan, I've always wanted to know how do you compartmentalize drafting Michigan players if you're an Ohio State fan? Do you just view them as hey, once you're in the NFL, I disassociate the college you went to, or is it yeah, I'd still rather go a different way because you went to Michigan. You know what I mean? For example, if Ohio State player goes to the Steelers or Ravens, is it I'm still going to silently root for him or not anymore? Corey Dodds with a $2 super chat. Dallas is getting questions in. Yeah, second win stories. I agree. 12 sacks in year one, it's crazy numbers. So I'm not here trying to change anyone's minds. I'm really just going through the pros and cons for all the prospects because nothing's a guarantee in the draft. Corey, number 1, Kelvin Banks, I assume. Number 2, Jack Sawyer. Oh, first round, Kelvin Banks. I was like, you have Sawyer second overall on your big board? So taking your left tackle out of Texas first, okay. Sawyer 2, I like that one a lot. I just love the player you're getting. Remove the production and the on-the-field stuff. The guy that's going to join that Browns locker room. That is someone who's going to live and die for the Cleveland Browns. Plus, Ohio guy too, so it's nice. Jackson Dart in round 3. Hey, Jackson Dart's not my, I would say cup of tea. That sounds too extreme. But for round 3, I'm perfectly fine with taking any quarterback you guys want, meaning if it doesn't work out, it's just a third rounder. So even if you don't think he is a third round guy, I'm okay with reaching in round 3 since you do have the luxury of 2 third-round picks. And then 4, I'm guessing Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Okay, I can get behind that. As for Banks, I have a couple of concerns with Banks. Good left tackle for Texas. He did kind of struggle when they played their biggest games. He wasn't elite against Michigan or against Georgia. Not in the SEC championship game the first time. I'd want the future franchise left tackle to be stout when they play their toughest competition. That's my concern. Will Campbell I like more, but I'm not a fan of drafting a guy top 10 as a tackle just to move him to guard. If you want a guard, then go get a guard in round 2 or round 3. If you want a tackle, then draft a tackle. But don't draft someone around in top 10 just to change their position. Well, let's find someone at that position you like. All right, next up on the show, we're going to go through Mel Kiper's mock draft, see who he has the Browns selecting. Nearly 130 people watching right now. We're at 40 likes. If you are just filing on in, hit that like button. Trying to get to 50 before we start our next segment. Ninja Cow likes Corey picks. Not to even go full. I wouldn't hate Josh Simmons. I feel like Simmons is going to be discounted because of the injury he suffered against Oregon. I thought he was outstanding before that injury, though. I think whichever team lands Simmons is going to land a sleeper in the draft. And we can look back and go, how did this tackle go behind these 3 guys, but he's been better than all 3? Oh, he got injured in college. Oh, I don't remember that. Oh, yeah. We do this all the time. We go look at any draft class, and it's fun to look at and go, wow, this player went ahead of that player. How is that possible? And sometimes there are repeat offenders of reasons. And one reason is because he was injured in college. So we have a mailbag coming up in just a little bit. Super chat like Corey. We'll include that super chat in our mailbag. Or use hashtag Browns. If you're unable to super chat, not an issue whatsoever. Just use hashtag Browns. That way our software can find your question, pull it, we'll put it on screen. I just ask you like the video. That's free, so greatly appreciate it. Next up, Mel Kiper's mock draft. That came out this morning. I want to react to it with you guys together and give you my thoughts on the pick he made for Cleveland at number 2. We're at 46 likes. Can we get 4 more likes to get to 50? And then we will get this plane off the ground. $47 likes. 3 more to go. Jurassic, the Browns have 2 third-round draft picks. They've got 12 picks altogether. No one's got better draft capital this year than Cleveland. Like, if you signed a number value, like points, let's say the first overall pick is worth 5,000 points, and the second overall pick is worth 4,800. You did all that for every single pick, and then you combine those points. No one's got more points than the Browns. Second pick in round 1, first pick in round 2, and then 2 third-round picks. It would have been nice if the Bills lost against, like, the Broncos. Would have been a much earlier third-round pick. With every win, it keeps going back more and more, but it's better than nothing. Okay, let's get this party started. I'm ready. Here we go. On today's episode, I want to break down and react to Mel Kiper's mock draft, the godfather of mock drafts, if you will. I know right now you can kind of be at times a punching bag as everyone all of a sudden has become a mock draft expert with, you know, the phones we have and the capabilities of all these mock draft simulators. But Kiper was the first, so don't, poo-poo on him too much. But I do like to look at these mock draft experts and gurus and just give you a reference as to how accurate they can be so no one gets too attached, okay? What I did was I looked back at Kiper's last 4 years of mock drafts for his January edition, and I wanted to see how accurate he was. Last year was very impressive. He went 4 for 5. He nailed the first 4 picks. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison. In 2023, not as good. He got 1 mock draft selection correct. It was the first one, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I gave him half a one because he had Will Anderson going 3rd overall just to the Cardinals. He ended up going 3rd overall to he had C.J. Stroud going and then Will Anderson. But he got the 3rd overall one. Right player, just wrong team. But he couldn't have known that the Texans were going to do a draft trade. But 2022, that was when he had Aiden Hutchinson going 1st overall. Trayvon Walker was not even in the top 10 at all. So 2021, he got 1 out of 5 correct. So just goes to show that it's a crapshoot even this far out. And this year's draft is not as predictable, I would say, as last year's, when everyone kind of knew Caleb 1, Jaden or Drake May 2, and then the other 3, and then Marvin Harrison probably to the Cardinals. So here it is. Let's take a look at Kiper's mock draft. Starting with, he's got Cam Ward going 1st overall to the Tennessee Titans, and then with the 2nd overall pick, he has the Browns selecting Travis Hunter, corner/wide receiver out of Colorado. So before we look at the rest of the mock draft, let's get to know Travis Hunter. First, I just want you guys to know him as a prospect, and then I want you to make your own opinion before I try and persuade you or anyone else does for that matter. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. Pretty solid size for a corner wide receiver. Maybe some teams would like him to be a little bit bigger, but this is not a concern in my opinion. Now, we all know how versatile he is. He played nearly 1,500 snaps. What's crazy about the amount of usage he had is people are going to look at that and they're going to forget, too, about all the snaps where it doesn't get logged. Meaning, he's playing wide receiver, he runs down the field, but there's a holding call, and it wipes away his 30-yard grab. I don't care about the yards being lost, but the actual energy he exerted is never accounted for, but he played that snap, but it doesn't go down as a snap. So it's way bigger than 1,400 snaps, and that led him to winning the Heisman Trophy. Now, this is what Mel Kiper had to say. I think Cleveland is more likely to address another hole here and find quarterback reinforcements in free agency and or later in the draft. Trading back for more picks with another QB-needy team could be part of the equation too. This is my preferred approach, the trade back option. Now, it's very easy for you and I to say, trade back, trade out, trade the pick. You got to find someone to trade with, right? You can find anyone to trade with, but you got to get a good trade value, good trade in return. And there may not be a team willing to give up a future first-round pick for the second overall pick in this draft if they don't think Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter, two out of those three guys are going to be there for sure at number 2, is worth this year's first-round draft pick and next year's first-round draft pick, probably a little bit more as well. So as fun as it might be to, fantasize trading back and adding more draft picks, you can look at the Browns' 2025 draft capital, adding a future first, but along with maybe a second or a third or a fourth. I mean, hopefully no more 6. They're not going to actually pick 5 times in round 6. They're going to trade those picks out, but they've got 12 picks right now, so it would not be the worst thing in the world to add some more picks for the future if you trade back, and that way you can really get fully reloaded with back-to-back drafts with a lot of picks to make up for 3 years of no first-round draft picks and not feel like you set yourself back 3, 4, 5 years from the Deshaun Watson trade. So let me ask you this question. Do you want to trade back? We'll talk more about Travis Hunter. Don't worry, I'm not going to get off that subject. But when it comes to trades, as Kiper suggested, is that something you're interested in? For me, the answer is yes. If you can get the Raiders to trade you their future first-round pick and you fall back from 2 to 6, you go into next year rooting against the Raiders, just like how the Bears were rooting against the Panthers, and the Panthers gifted Chicago the first overall pick. And I think the Raiders are going to stink out loud this year. They don't have a quarterback. I don't think Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is going to keep them out of picking first overall again next year. Bryce Young couldn't do it for the Panthers. And Bryce Young was head and shoulders a better prospect than Ward and Sanders are coming into this year. So ultimately, you get maybe a first overall pick, second or third overall pick the next draft. And at 6, you can get a very good player like Will Johnson or Mason Graham or maybe even Ashton Genty. Like, we can have that conversation later. But I had 100% trade back if it resulted in a future first rounder coming to you. Before we get on to the rest of today's episode, I do have to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Where were we? Travis Hunter. Let's talk about him a little bit as a prospect, because I do want people to come up with their own opinions on these prospects. If you don't have the time or the energy to look into this stuff on your own, like, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. That's why I love my job. But I do love the draft, and I can't say one player is going to be great with absolute certainty. Like the godfather of mock drafts, Mel Kiper, he said like Jimmy Clausen was going to be the best player ever, and that didn't work out very well. But I also saw this from Kiper. When talking about Travis Hunter, I see elite quickness and ball skills on both sides of the ball, traits that helped him to 15 touchdown catches and 4 interceptions this season. The Browns would likely use him primarily at receiver and then sprinkle him in at cornerback in specific situations. I'm going to interject Kiper right there and go, I think the exact opposite. I believe that Hunter is going to be a corner that can be sprinkled into receiver at specific situations. And this is not me trying to be a hater. Let me just stick on this for a moment, Dylan. Learning an NFL playbook is not easy. Learning the offense and defensive playbook as a rookie is not easy. If you are in the NFL for the same team for 5-6 years, maybe then at that point you've kind of mastered the playbook enough with the same coach, the same coordinator, where, hey, we can toss you in on offense or defense for a specialty play. There are plenty of athletes who are probably capable of maybe going both ways at times, but it's not done because I just don't think someone can learn a very complex playbook. It's not complex in the sense of memorizing alone. There's a lot of complex things to it, like, hey, based on the defensive outlook we get, this is the route you're going to run. And that takes time and chemistry with your quarterback. And if you're not getting that chemistry in practice because you're playing DB, I don't expect you to get that chemistry in the game on Sunday when the quarterback thinks, hey, we only have a one high safety look and you're not getting a double team, so you're going to run a go route. But poor Travis Hunter doesn't know the quarterback's thinking that because the play called for him to run a curl route. But often we see players make mid-snap adjustments based on the defensive look. This to me does not seem like something that a rookie's going to pick up. So in college, it's a lot easier because the playbooks are so simpler. No college coach can throw an NFL playbook at you. The kids can't learn that. They're kids. They're in college. They're partying, and they have classes. They may not really do a whole lot of classes for a lot of them, but they do have classes. They have to dumb it down. No one's going to pick it up that well. It's a way different ball game in the NFL. So I think that we could see him sprinkled in, and I think the sprinkling would come in on offense. I think the sprinkle would come in on offense in situations like, hey, in the red zone. Hey, on 3rd and a mile with the game on the line, and we just need someone to run straight and high point the football and make a play. We're just going to play backyard football. Those are situations where specialty plays in the red zone, like I said, or 3rd and long, he can make a big play for you on offense. But I think he is better projected to be a corner in the NFL. We'll throw his stats on screen for you guys here. 15 touchdowns is nothing to sleep on. But let me ask you this question. If he was only going to play wide receiver, would he be a top 2 draft pick? I don't think Travis Hunter, the receiver, is better than Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas. I think if any of those guys were in this draft class, they would go before Travis Hunter, the wide receiver. But Travis Hunter, the do-it-all man, well, that's a different ball game. But if he's not going to be a do-it-all player for you at the next level, and he's just going to play one side, is Travis Hunter the corner or the wide receiver, 2nd overall pick good? That's where I'm torn. I don't have the clear answer for you. And that's going to be a big question that someone has to answer. And the answer may very well be yes, because when you watch him play, the eye test tells you the guy is a football player. He's a phenomenal football player. He's one of a few non-quarterbacks to win the Heisman Trophy. Joining DeVonta Smith, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush. And all these guys went on to have very successful NFL careers. So there's no reason to believe that Hunter can't join this list, but he's a unicorn. There's not this long history of guys playing both ways in the NFL in the modern era. There were back in the 20s and 30s when they were salesmen, and if they just hurt their knee, they were done for their career. But it's not that time and age anymore. So I wish I had the crystal ball to tell you it all. I did. I'd tell Andrew Berry first, and I'd tell you. But if Travis Hunter was the pick, what would you grade it? A, B, C, D, or F? On one hand, you're getting a stud football player. But I think there are fair concerns to be had. And I wonder if he'll kind of be like a lot of other really good college players that's super good in college, but it just doesn't quite translate to the NFL because he's not stand out head and shoulders above everyone else at corner or receiver. And that's a subjective opinion that might be wrong, but that's my opinion right now. In case you want to know how the rest of the Kiper mock went, we'll kind of run through it together. At 3, the Giants end up getting the quarterback they were pursuing all along after beating the Colts in a meaningless game. Abdul Carter falls to the Patriots at 4. Mason Graham is a Jag at 5. The Raiders get T-Mac, the Arizona wideout. Mykel Williams to the Jets. The Panthers take another Georgia Bulldog off the board. It's Jalen Walker, the linebacker. Will Johnson, who I'm really high on as a prospect, so if the Browns trade back, he's at the top of my wish list. Will Campbell goes to the Bears at 10, and then the Niners take Kelvin Banks. If you want the Browns to go out and get an offensive tackle, these are two of the top guys. I like Campbell over Banks, but I think Campbell might be a guard at the next level. Some teams get very picky about offensive line arm length, and he might have some short arms. Luther Burden, a yak monster yards after the catch, goes to Dallas to team up with CeeDee Lamb. Then we can get a little bit of a run here of more Georgia Bulldogs. Malachi Starks to the Dolphins. Tyler Warren to the Colts. It's a great pick for Indy. He just screams Indianapolis, does he not? Shamir Stewart to the Falcons. He's a really athletic player but lacks production. Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman of the Cardinals. Jahad Campbell, he'll go and be whoever the new DC in Cincinnati is, his new linebacker. I got to get to know this Mizzou offensive lineman because his name's been flying up recently. The South Carolina safety, incredible size and speed and ball skills. If you want to sound smart in front of your friends, learn his name quickly. Ashton Genty to the Broncos at 20. Then you got Emeka Ibuka going from Columbus to Pittsburgh. The Steelers desperately need a wide receiver. I don't think they've taken a wide receiver in round 1 since, dare I say, like Santonio Holmes? Colston Loveland to his old coach, Harbaugh, with the Chargers. Mike Green led the country in sacks last year from Marshall. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame. He'll go to the Vikings, who are going to lose all 3 corners to free agency potentially. Josh Simmons, I'm telling you guys, if you really want the Browns to take a tackle, I would look at him. He's going to be someone that falls because of his injury, but I'm willing to take a chance on him. A couple more offensive linemen that go. The Lions give Aiden Hutchinson a friend opposite of him, James Pierce out of Tennessee. And then the Commanders take Nick Scorton, who transferred from Purdue to A&M at pick 29. A sneaky good corner from Kentucky goes to the Bills. And then I really like Walter Nolan as a prospect. That might be their Chris Jones replacement if he leaves in like 2 to 3 years. And then finally, the Eagles select Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. So that is the rest of Kiper's mock. Let's pick a card and get you guys on out of here. I've got producer Dylan on the 1s and 2s. Dylan, which card do you want to select?
Well, I'm 0 for 2 right now.
Yeah, get in line, buddy. I'm like 0 for 1,000.
I'll go Jack of Clubs.
Jack of Clubs?
Ace of Hearts.
Ace of Hearts from Reed. I'm going to go 7 of Clubs. I don't think someone said this. 2 of Hearts. 2 of Hearts, I know. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you all later. We got a super chat from Tim Green. Awesome to see you, Tim. Appreciate that. Anyone get the card right? I don't think so. Tim Green, longtime viewer of the channel. Looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully, over the summer. Try and get something planned out. With a home game in the UK next season, which opponent would you like to see? Ooh, I like it, Tim. AFC North team or Green Bay, Buffalo, San Francisco, Minnesota, or Tennessee? So we have never seen a divisional game overseas. There's a first for everything. Let's just say that the first won't be for this one. So let's rule out the AFC North. I'll do like prediction and then who I prefer to see. Packers played in Brazil to open up last year. They're staying stateside. I doubt they go again. At least Buffalo, San Francisco, Minnesota, or Tennessee. I would like this to be an opponent that the Browns don't need superior home field advantage to beat. So I guess the Titans, because you could probably beat the Titans at a neutral field and not feel like you missed a good opportunity to, eke out a tough win because of the home crowd for you, which you will likely need for like Buffalo, the Niners, the Vikings. So I think the answer has to be the Titans. Now, from a entertainment standpoint, maybe the Niners, what they're probably going to do the Niners is they'll play the Jets, the Giants, the Bills. I don't know what their schedule is, but they've got some game on the East Coast. Have them play there, and then have them go over to the UK and just make one super big East Coast trip for them. But I'd probably want to see Browns, Bills could be fun, I guess. I'll say the Titans, though. I'll say the Titans. Tim, thank you so much for your super chat, though. Greatly appreciate your support of the channel. We have our mailbag coming up next, so if you want to get on the mailbag like Tim will be, super chat, we guarantee your question and your take gets on screen, or use hashtag Browns, and our producer team will pick their favorite questions for the mailbag. We got 116 people strong right now, 65 likes. Can we get to 70 likes before we start our mailbag? 5 more likes to go. I've got Dallas and James and Kathy, Declan Proz is here. Love to see it. Love to see it. Three likes to go. 67 likes. Let's get there. Let's get there. I was saying this earlier. The entire Southeast just losing their marbles over some snow. I don't know if you saw this, the city of Houston's plan for the snow. They just came out and said, we don't have snowplows, so our plan is for nature to do its thing and wait for it to melt. Which I appreciate the honesty, because you never get honesty at any level from politicians anymore. But I don't know if you guys saw the pictures of it. The beach being covered in snow was from white sand to white snow. Bourbon Street having snowball fights. This is a once in 100-year thing. Austin getting a question in. Thank you, Austin. We're at 70 likes. There we go. Okay, here we go. Let's get into our mailbag right now as soon as Mr. Dillon and Mr. Reed are ready. I love this. And here in Ohio, we like to play a game called Am I Still on the Road? I remember my last job, and it's why I love my current job so much. Not that I hated my last one, but it was in Wyoming, very desolate and just remote place, and I would get caught in snowstorms all the time driving back, and it was the kind of snowstorm where you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you, so I had to rely on my Apple Maps to know when the road would begin to bend, because it was that tough sometimes to see. So I feel you, AFX. I know that all too well. I remember one time being on the phone with my grandma. She was freaking out. She's like, please just stop, go to a hotel, I'll pay for it for you. I was like, Grandma, I got bad news for you. The closest hotel is Mikasa. There is no hotel around me right now. The next stop in town is my town. So we're just going to power through for the next hour. Okay. Nursey, so sorry to bore you. I'll see you later, buddy. Let's get into it. It is mailbag time here on the Cleveland Browns Report. I'm answering questions that came in during our live show, which airs every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you have a question you want to ask, come tune in next Wednesday. But with that being said, we can get into our first question coming in from Gregory. Can our front line support a rookie and a new running back, or do you see the journeyman leading the rookie running back while drafted the QB sits? This is a great question, Gregory. No, I don't see a rookie quarterback doing well behind. It's not that the offensive line is dreadful. If Bitonio and Teller and Conklin all return, those are guys who have all made the Pro Bowl and All-Pro honors. And if DeJuan Jones comes back healthy, he showed some promise at left tackle. Postic's a solid center. They're all just getting older and expensive. But I don't think either Ward or Sanders would do well in Cleveland. And this may not be the exact answer you're looking for, but those are guys that, to me, feel like prospects that could do well in the right situation. They're so immensely talented that regardless of the situation, they're going to do well. Jaden Daniels was so immensely talented that he took a team that was as dysfunctional and inept as the Washington Commanders and brings them all the way to the NFC Championship game. That's wow, he's so good, he's going to drag everyone with him. I don't get that from Sanders or Ward. So they might be good elsewhere, and this is not me just trying to say no matter what I'm right, but I think they are good because they sat for a year and are in a good situation, not tossed into the fire that is the Cleveland Browns offense. Gregory, I'd prefer the journeyman quarterback and let the rookie sit if they do draft a rookie early in the draft. Dallas, next one up. If Geno Smith was released, should we sign him? Wouldn't be opposed. He's not going to be released, though. The Seahawks have more or less come out. They haven't said it word for word, but they have no intention, from what I can tell, to move on from Geno. So I expect Smith to return because if you're Seattle, you got to ask yourself, who are we getting that's better? Like, Geno's probably ranking between 12 and 18 of quarterbacks. You're not picking very early in the draft. It's not a good free agency class. So if you don't have a better plan at quarterback, why rock the boat for a quarterback that's not dreadful? You know what I mean? But if he were to be released, I'd definitely be interested in Geno. I think he has shown that he could be a good starting quarterback, and he'd probably be better than most options the Browns have. Tim Green with a super chat. With a home game in the UK next season, which opponent would you like to see? AFC North team, Green Bay, Buffalo, Niners, Vikings, or Titans? I don't think we've ever seen a divisional game overseas. First for everything, but I'll kind of cross that off. I would like for the home game to be against a team that you don't feel like you need home field advantage for. You want the dog pound barking for Allen, for the Niners. I mean, I don't think the Browns beat the Niners when they played them 2 years ago at a neutral site. Minnesota, I would take the Titans. Worst team in football last year, technically, right? I would be okay with playing them on a neutral field, knowing you might not have your home field advantage against them, but you probably don't need it for the Tennessee Titans. Danny Rhymes, a name I haven't heard discussed much is Daniel Jones. Any chance the Browns bring him in? I guess there's a chance, yes. I think the Browns are going to explore every quarterback option. I don't want the Browns to explore the Daniel Jones path. Now, the Browns are going to sign, I think, and they should sign a minimum of 2 free agent quarterbacks. I project their quarterback room to look like the following: a rookie somewhere in the draft, 2 free agents, DTR, and Deshaun Watson on the PUP list. They had 4 healthy quarterbacks last year during training camp and minicamp. I expect them to have 4 again. So 2 veterans. And if one of those veterans is Daniel Jones, so be it. I'm not sure if Daniel Jones is going to have any interest in the Browns. Like, beggars can't be choosers. But he probably wants to go pursue the Sam Darnold path of, let me go sit behind a really good quarterback or go sit behind, learn from a really good coach. I'm not knocking Stefanski, but, like, he's not in the same tier as Kyle Shanahan. So you're unlikely to woo Daniel Jones to Cleveland, and I'm not into, like, the guy stinks. He's had some good moments, and he led the Giants in the playoffs in 2022, but no. I would rather go a different route. Now, if you do sign him, I'm not going to be upset about it as long as there are plans to bring in other quarterbacks to bring in more competition. I don't think they should just hand him the starting job. Now, let me know. Do you want Cleveland to sign Jones? Give me a yes or give me a no down in the comment section. This is our pinned comment, so scroll on down and let me hear from you. My coworker, Chase Sr., I think someone made another account for him, a burner, if you will. What tackle should we target, and is this draft worth trading back up in round 1? Good question, Chase. Which tackle? Here's my tackle rankings right now, and this is going to be subject to change. Will Campbell at 1, but, man, you could tell I'm not very confident because he's a left tackle who, right out of the jump, starts at left tackle as a true freshman for the LSU Tigers in the SEC. That's not an easy job to claim as a true freshman. So I probably shouldn't overthink it. But some people think he has more the size of a guard. I'm not interested in using a top 10 draft pick on a tackle that will convert to a guard. I'm on board with that plan and strategy for round 2 or round 3. Top 10, I want a guy that played that position in college that's going to play that position in the NFL. So that's my hiccup with Campbell. Josh Simmons, I think, is a little bit of a sleeper. I thought he was great for the Buckeyes in 2023, got off to a really good start this year, and people are going to let him go past them in the draft because of the injury he suffered against Oregon, the knee injury. But Simmons, probably Kelvin Banks third. Whenever they play their toughest competition, Texas, Banks did not look his best. Michigan on the road, Georgia at home. If he's playing future NFL talent and he's not looking so good in college, imagine when he plays real NFL talent in the NFL. So those are my top 3 guys to tackle. Austin, is Deshaun Watson done in Cleveland? Could we see him play 2026 possibly? I saw Watson post. I have two thoughts on this, and this is just dumb analysis. He posted on Instagram a photo montage, and like every other photo was a picture of him playing for the Browns, which I thought was a little interesting because if it truly is the Browns are ready to move on from Watson, why would he be posting pictures of him playing for the Browns? Like, doesn't that just seem a little strange? The other thing is, and this is where it gets really dumb, but it's a modern era of the way, our age group works. Watson has his comment sections turned off. You can only comment if he follows you, and he follows all of his teammates. And I remember when they first got Watson and he'd post on Instagram, I was always a little curious to see how his teammates interacted with him. And a lot of his teammates would comment on his posts. And this is dumb, I know. Nowadays, I'm not seeing a lot of teammates comment on Watson's posts anymore. So I wonder if in the locker room, they moved on. Whereas first off, when they first got him, hey, you're trying to make a good impression with the new quarterback, right? Kind of makes sense. Nowadays, not seeing any of his teammates comment much, which I know is dumb, but is it that dumb? I don't know. Before we move on to the rest of the mailbag questions, quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Next question coming in from Ninja Cow. Does Emeka Egbuka seem like a better wide receiver than Travis Hunter? Oh, that's a good question because whenever we see the first big board from Kiper, it's really tough to convince ourselves the guy who's fifth is better than the guy that's one. But then we go look at any draft from the last, 100 years, and there are plenty of players who are better than the guy selected ahead of them. I think Hunter is a very, very good receiver. I don't think that really has to be stated. I would take Hunter over Egbuka, but I would not take Travis Hunter over any wide receiver that went round one last year. I would take Neighbors, Harrison, Odunze, Brian Thomas. Am I missing any other receivers that went round one last year? So all those guys I have as prospects higher than Travis Hunter, the wide receiver. Which, not to go off on a tangent, but once again, I've said this before in other videos, is Travis Hunter, the wide receiver, second overall good? I don't think so. I think Travis Hunter, the football player, is second overall good. But if you don't plan to use him on both sides, then that's a different conversation. But I'd still take Hunter over Egbuka. Declan Praz. What do you think about Cedric Tillman's future with the Browns? We kind of forgot about him. I mean, yeah, because he ended the year on injured reserve. He missed the last 6 games, right, with the concussion. Kind of concerning. A little, not quite to the level of JOK, but 6 games on IR with the concussion. We got a problem on our hands. Now, hopefully with just time, healing all, he'll be healthy and ready to roll for the start of the season. But I sure hope he doesn't fall into a camp of frequent Denzel Ward level concussions and maybe it cuts his career short a little bit. So I'm high on him as a player when he's healthy on the field. He gave us some really good tape and some really good highlights his last couple of games, especially against the Ravens when Jameis beat Baltimore. But if he comes back healthy, I've got no concerns. But if we start to get some rumblings early 2025 of hey, So Tillman's not going to do minicamp. He's still reeling from some of the concussion side effects. We have a problem on our hands. Kathy, you're next up. Would you be upset if the Browns draft a running back in the 3rd round? No. No, I would not be. My ideal draft for the Browns is trade back from 2 to 6 with the Raiders, get Will Johnson out of Michigan, and then select Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa, in round 2 with the first pick in round number 2. Maybe even jump from like 33rd to 32nd, give up one of your like 3 6-round draft picks to move up one spot. It would probably cost you a little bit more than that, but still. So you can get the 5th-year option on Caleb Johnson because everyone hates paying running backs. So if you get that 5th-year option on them, it's one less year they have to worry about paying them free agent money. But I am in no way, shape, or form opposed to going running back in round 3 at all. I think it's a very good running back draft class, and be more than happy to use a day 2 pick on a back. I've never put myself in the camp of don't draft running backs early, don't pay running backs, because the number one argument those people say is, well, look at the teams that win the Super Bowl. They never pay a running back more than $1 million. The teams winning the Super Bowl are usually teams quarterbacked by Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. They can get by without having a superstar running back. For the rest of us mortals that don't have a superstar quarterback, you're going to need a superstar somewhere. And no one touches the football more than a running back. Kirk Davis, I think we draft Carter and draft our QB on the 2nd or 3rd day. Kirk, I'm with you, dude. Like, I talked about trading back for Will Johnson. If they can't trade back, I am not opposed to drafting Abdul Carter 2nd overall. 12 sacks in his first year at that position. It's freaky to think about what he could look like in a few more years at that position. Now, if I'm doing a pro-con here, the con would be first year at that position, he's still pretty raw. You'd like to find someone who's got a good track record at that spot. But still, I'm on board with Carter at 2 if that's the play, and then drafting a quarterback in round 2 or round 3. I'd probably go round 3, but that's something that we're kind of splitting hairs over a little bit. But I'm with you, Kirk. Carter, and then taking a quarterback in day 2. Last question coming in from Soul Train. Between the East-West Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine, and Pro Day, how much do you think will change by then? Soul Train, great question. I view these things right here more or less more Combine and Pro Day than East-West and Senior Bowl because the first 2 involve pads coming on, so you can actually get some more football tape. But the Combine and Pro Day, I view them as, the way I interpret them is things that should only boost players. If a guy has a bad day at the Combine, I'm not going to cross them off my list and go, I was wrong. If I saw something from a player A through 12 games in the regular season that made me very excited about them as a prospect, I will not let one bad day in Indianapolis in skin-tight, like Lululemon underwear, running around Lucas Oil Field, wipe away my memory of all the good stuff I saw with them having their pads on. Football is not played in underwear. It's played in pads. So if what we saw with the pads on was good enough for us in the fall, then we should not let something that happened in February in Indianapolis take away from what they produced in the season. Now, if they show us some great speed and some great strength and good overall track and field numbers, that could add to someone's resume. But how much you think will change by then? A little bit, depending on the thinking of GMs. Like the Browns are an analytically driven team. So they really take into account a player's raw relative athletic score and the size and the height. Whereas other teams might be old style and just go, eye test. We're going to watch the film. We don't care what underwear has to do with it in February and Lucas Oil. The Browns are definitely a team that gets impacted by the Combine. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to pick a card to wrap things up. Dylan, which card do you want to go with?
Let's go. You know what? It's been a lot of 2s lately. So
it has been.
2 of Hearts.
I like it. That wasn't the card last time?
Maybe you do it again.
It's all even chance. The 4 of spades keeps popping up, so I'm not clowning you. All right, here we go. I'm going to go with the... Oh, yeah? I'm going to go 3 of spades. What'd you say? 8 of clubs. No! 8 of clubs. All right. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you all later. Okay. Soul Train, I know I kind of gave you a bit of a long-winded response, but I hope you kind of got the general gist of what I was saying. No one got it. Darn. Well, that will do it for us on our live show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, as you always do. We could end with this right here. Who you got for the AFC and NFC championship games? Let me know. I'll give you my predictions right now. Not what I want, what I truly think is going to happen. I truly believe in my heart. Well, I don't. Look, when I say I believe, like who I'm picking, but I wouldn't put my life on it. Well, like when I say that, I would say it for something I'm like uberly confident over. Like this one, I'm not uberly confident in. I think. Yeah. I think if I had to pick, but I don't really like believe it to the point where I would stick my neck out for it. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I don't want to. But if I had to put $100 on it, I'd take the Chiefs. For the NFC Championship game, I'm taking the Eagles. This is one where I wholeheartedly believe. I really believe the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be rematching with the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and I hope the Eagles win. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll let you get on with the rest of your Wednesday evenings. Enjoy the rest of your week. Get the hiccups all of a sudden, and I'll see you all later.